Hey guys, it's the final wrap up of the year. Let's crack open our seltzer water, which is summer berry, you know, in winter, and let's get into this wrap up. It's a pretty good one. I like that one. Different berry flavors. December was an interesting reading month because I did not DNF a single book because I couldn't, because I had to get to 100 books or else I would just die. And that's a stupid goal, but I was so close that I was like, oh my gosh, I literally cannot DNF any books. If I just counted some other books throughout the year as having read them, even though I technically DNF'd them, but I got over 50%, I think it would have been better because I wouldn't have to push through these they were tiny little books, but boy, they were sucky. So I read 8 books this month, and 3 were mystery, 2 sci-fi, 2 fantasy, 1 romance, one of which was a reread. They were all adult books this time, at 2,170 pages. The average rating was 3 stars. I did have 3 4-star books, but I had 3 2-star books as well, so that was bad. And then 2 3 stars. 1 physical book, all the rest audio. That's all I ever have time for. 6 of them were in a series out of the 8. Interesting. 2 were new to me authors, and 6 were authors I'd read from previously, which is also interesting because usually it's a lot of new ones. And then they were all female authors except for 1. So let's get into it. I started with some sci-fi novellas to see if I could get into that, and I could not. Apparently I just don't like sci-fi. So first I tried Fina by Nina Capri? I don't know how to say it. It's only 103 pages. I would have DNF'd this at like page 10 if it hadn't been for the fact that it was only 100 pages. And I needed 100 books. So I honestly could not tell you what it was about. I gave it 2 stars. I think the first of a series. It was sci-fi. I honestly don't remember anything about it. Next, actually, in between my 2 little sci-fi novellas, I read Simply Lies by David Baldacci. And the reason is because this is like my dad's favorite author. And he was going to read this book. I got it for him for the library. And I was like, okay, he always reads David Baldacci. I'll surprise him and I'll read it too so that we can talk about it. Because the premise actually sounded pretty intriguing. It was fine. It was just okay. In fact, my dad told me later, once I surprised him that I'd read it, he DNF'd it. I think he only made it 50 or 100 pages in and said it wasn't near as good as his other books. So the fact that I gave it 3 stars and said it was okay, maybe I should try some other David Baldacci books. But like the premise was actually pretty cool about this woman who works for this like organization that investigates people or whatever. And anyway, she gets contacted by somebody at her main branch telling her to go on an actual field mission to this like old abandoned house and try to find something. And she goes there, and turns out the whole thing was like a setup. And the person she talked to on the phone from her headquarters was not the person from her headquarters. It was somebody else. And there's this whole like elaborate scheme. It was too long. Like I did like the premise of it and I thought it was cool. But the middle bogged down a lot. I liked the beginning and the end, but yeah, it was just a little too slow in the middle for me. It was fine. Like I said, I gave it 3 stars. Then I tried another sci-fi novella. And when I'm saying novella, it's 96 pages. Not even 100 pages. Binti by Nedia Korafor. I read another book by her called Remote Control, which was young adult. I don't think this one is actually young adult. But it was... Remote Control was pretty good. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars. I actually really enjoyed it. This... terrible. Could not tell you anything of what it was about. It was a trilogy that I then picked up the second 2 books from the library just in case I liked this one, and it turns out I did not. I could barely make it through this. I would have DNF'd this so fast it would make your head spin. It was so bad. It might have been better than Fina, maybe. I don't know. It says it's an award winner. I guess sci-fi is not for me because I hated this book. Then I read Masters of Death by Olivia Blake, and boy, what a ride this thing was. It's actually going to be in a reading vlog that I have coming out here pretty soon about it was like a certain theme I'm doing, and this book fit into that theme. And I've read this book for like 2 months. This is my only physical book. It took me a long time to read it. Maybe that's part of the problem too, but I DNF'd her other book, Atlas 6, last year or whatever it was, and I thought I'd give her another chance. This book, the first half, 5 stars. One of my favorite books like ever. Like it was going to be a 5-star, wonderful, best book of the year. One of my all-time favorites. I would reread it. I would buy it physically. I'm so glad I didn't buy it physically because the second half, every time I predict that a book's going to be 5 stars, like if I'm reading it and I'm like, I love it so much. Like Silver in the Bone, that was another one that I was like, oh, this is so good, 5 stars. And I called it too early. I got to stop predicting 5 stars too early because the first half was 5 stars. Second half, like I said, maybe 3 stars. So overall, I landed on a 4-star rating. The writing style of this book is definitely not for everyone. For me, I loved the writing style. And that's actually what carried me through the second half of the book, that I did not care about the plot or what was actually going on. But I love the characters. And I saw another booktuber's review who said, Katie Colson, who said, I think it was on Goodreads, she said if this had been a series, it would have been amazing because you'd be connected to the characters and you'd care more about the ending, but you just don't get enough time spent with them to really care about what's going on. And honestly, the plot is Like, it doesn't really make any sense at the end. It's about this game that these immortals play, but you don't understand what the game is. I still don't know what the game is, and like, it makes no sense. Can't really say if I'd recommend it or not because, like I said, the writing style is not for everybody. The sentence structure is very convoluted, very long, wordy sentences, lots of like interruptions in the sentences with parentheses and dashes. Everything's kind of overly explained, and I just absolutely loved the writing style, but like I said, the plot is not for me. Then I read the Sweep in Peace, which is the second book of the Innkeeper Chronicles. I don't know, that might be the wrong name of the series, but something like that. Anyway, the first one was called Clean Sweep. This is the second one. Right now there are 5 so far in the series. It's written by a husband and wife team who go by this name, Ilona Andrews, something like that. It's adult fantasy. They're short little fun books. I like them because they're sort of fantasy and sci-fi put together, because there are vampires and werewolves, but vampires and werewolves are actually aliens from outer space. I think the werewolves are too. I know the vampires are. And the lady runs an inn. In this one, she was trying to keep the peace kind of between these like 2 different factions of people that were meeting at her inn, because you got to stay neutral. Like, she's got to remain neutral at her inn, and it's just like neutral ground that she's hosting this event. And it was more just like her preparing for the event, and then when the event happens, she's just like, I must stay neutral, must keep everybody from killing each other. And that was it. Like, it was really boring. I thought the first one was better for sure. I'm gonna give the third one a shot. If I don't like the third one any better, I'll probably DNF the whole series. Then I did my reread, which was In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, because I actually like this book even though it's romance. Who would have thought? I like a romance book. This is the only romance I think I've ever enjoyed. I gave it 4 stars last time. I still gave it 4 stars this time, although I didn't like some parts towards the end. It's like that third act conflict that apparently all romance books have to have once the couple kind of gets together, and the third act conflict was stupid, but at least it was short. It was over very quickly. I was like, why are they mad? Why is the guy mad about this? Anyway, I very much enjoyed this because it is kind of time travel-y. Although I saw one complaint on Goodreads that said the time travel aspect is abandoned pretty early on. The time travel does set it up at the beginning with her kind of reliving the same experience over and over, not the same day, but like actually multiple days around Christmas time. And as she dies, and then every time she dies, she wakes back up on the plane again and has to do it all again. But it's so that she can like fall in love with this dude. Well, she's been in love with him forever, but like they're like friends to lovers or whatever, childhood friends. I just spat and like the spit went towards the camera. I wonder if you can see it on the camera. I'm gonna have to watch it back. That could be funny. Anyway, it was good. It was cute. I'm glad I bought this little book. I bought it used for like $3. So yeah, it's a fun book. I might try Christina Lauren again and just see if I like anything else by them. My last 2 go together, which is the second and third books in the Veronica Speedwell series. Oh yeah, I forgot. I kind of damaged this book with like water damage just a little bit on the bottom. Ugh, I hope they don't charge me from the library. It's not terrible. There's no mold. Should be okay, right? Anyway, A Perilous Undertaking by Deanna Rayburn. Like I said, the first one was called A Curious Beginning, and I read it a few months ago and really enjoyed the writing style, not so much the plot, but the characters like banter, their wittiness was so good. Like, she's such a clever writer, and so that's what I loved about the second book too. I actually wound up giving this book 4 stars, the second in the series, and the first book as well. And I did see online it said you should read them slowly, and I see why, because I loved it so much that I went straight to the third one for my final book of the year, and it wasn't as good. I was sad, but the third one's called A Treacherous Curse. But this one, you kind of start getting to see a little bit more of the relationship between the 2 like main characters. It's going to kind of be a love story. Like, it is mostly a mystery set in the 1800s, but there is definitely going to be a love story as well. So it reminded me of the Vicky Bliss series that I love so much, which is somewhere over here behind me, I'm sure, by Elizabeth Peters. It kind of reminds me of that, where it's like mystery and the characters are kind of funny and there's a little bit of a love story. So I did like that. And then A Treacherous Curse was Egyptian, like an Egyptian mystery. And supposedly Anubis is walking around and there's a curse from a tomb. And I was like, oh, this is going to be so good because I love Egypt. If I've not said in my videos before, my whole goal as a child was I was going to be an Egyptologist. That was going to be my job. Yeah, obsessed with ancient Egypt. So that's why I thought this book would be great. Unfortunately, it was so not. It was just so mediocre compared to the second one. But I'm still going to continue the series because I want to know what happens between Veronica and Stoker, who are like definitely going to wind up together at some point, obviously. But I want to see what happens. So anyway, I still recommend the series, but this one just 3 stars. It was fine. So those are the 8 books I read in December, which means yay, I did it. I read 100 books. It's over. I'm just not going to read anymore now. So no, I'm going to keep reading. I'm just going to go slower. And I'm going to read big books now. I've been reading, if you noticed, all of these were like 300 50 pages or less. Yeah, I think my biggest one was 349. No, Simply Lies was 432. But most of them were pretty short, and it's because I had to read short books to get to 100, which means now I can read whatever I want, and I'm going to read big, long books that are like 27-hour-long audio books and all that, start big fantasy series, and I don't have to worry about numbers because for 2024, I have no reading goals at all, except just have fun with it. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down below if you've read any of these, what you thought about them, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.